I have been working my way through slowly the book of Mark, looking at the Greek text and then doing a grammatical analysis with commentary. And if anyone would like to join along, if you open your Greek New Testament and follow, that would be great. One of my purposes is to share an inductive study of grammar and then personally talk about the interpretation as I would understand it. So we worked our way up to Jesus commanding the unclean spirit to come out of the man. The book of Mark is about action, and we have seen after the Lord's baptism and temptation, his great Galilean ministry, as it starts, calling of the four fishermen. And now we are at the text where he is going to uh, cast out a demon out of a man. So I'll read the Greek and then translate it and talk about the grammar. It reads, Kai eis paruantai eis kafarnaum, kaiuthus ois sabasin, a selthon eis tain synagogain adidaskin. That is, and as they were entering into Capernaum, or as they are entering into Capernaum, this is what we call a historical use of the present. It is the present indicative middle, third person plural from eis paruamai. So as they are entering into Capernaum, and immediately, we get that euthus again, immediately on the Sabbath, as Sailthon, when they came into the synagogue, he was teaching. Notice a Sailthon is from a serkamai. It is an aorist participle, active, nominative, masculine, singular, from a serkamai. So when they entered into the synagogue, he was teaching. A didaskin from didasko, imperfect, indicative, active, third person, singular, from didasko. So Jesus is teaching as he enters into the synagogue. One of the things that Jesus would do is go to the synagogue and teach. And that is a wonderful model for us to be teaching the word. One of the most important things, especially ministers, are called to do. So when he entered into the synagogue, he was teaching kai exe plaisantai epite didake autu. Ein gar didaskon autus, hos exousian echon, kai uchos kai grammates. That is, and notice they were amazed at his teaching, for he was teaching them as having authority and not as the scribes. So they were being amazed. Exeplaisanta is the imperfect, indicative, passive, third person plural from ekpleso. So they were being amazed at his teaching, at his doctrine. For he was teaching them. Notice ein didaskon. Ein is your imperfect, indicative, active, third person, singular from eimi, and it's used in a paraphrastic way with the participle didaskon. He was teaching them. This is the present active participle, nominative, masculine, singular from didasko. So he was teaching them as having authority and not as the scribe. Ekon is another participle, present active participle, nominative masculine singular from echo. Notice they're amazed. They were amazed because he was teaching them differently than the scribes. What the scribes would do when you look at rabbinic sources, they would say, Rabbi so and so said this to Rabbi so and so, who said this to Rabbi so and so, something like that, where Jesus just comes straight out, like in the Sermon on the Mount. You have heard, but I say to you. So I think that's the thought here that Mark is making. So he was teaching them as having authority and not as the scribes. And then in verse 23, Kaiuthus ein in te synagoge auton anthropos in pneumati a katharto kai anekraxin. And immediately, there we have that euthus again. We keep seeing that all the way through Mark. The servant is immediately doing this and then moving that to do that. So notice immediately he was in their synagogue. There was in their synagogue a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried, saying, notice ain again is your imperfect indicative active, third person singular from ami. He was in their synagogue. There was a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried. Anekroxen is from anakradzo, to like to cry out. The aorist indicative active third person singular from anakradzo. So he cried out, saying, and then notice his words. This is the unclean spirit. Indwelling this man, cries out to Jesus, saying, Legon ti hemen setis e ha agios to theou. That is, what to you, or to us and to you, the Holy One of God. And so the unclean spirit is asking the question, what do you have to do with us? You shouldn't be here meddling in our affairs, something like that. I think this is an idiom that we have here. And legon is your present participle, active participle, nominative masculine singular from lego. What are you doing with us and us with you? So Jesus, O Jesus of Nazareth, have you come to destroy us? Eothes apalesai chemas, have you come to destroy us? I know you, who you are, the Holy One of God. Notice Eothes is your aorist indicative active third person singular from erkamai. So have you come to destroy? This is from apolumi. It is the aorist infinitive active from apolumi. Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are. Oida is the perfect indicative active first person singular from oida, but it's used in a present tense kind of a meaning. I know you, who you are. And a here is your present indicative active second person singular from a me. So I know you, who you are, the Holy One of God. Hagias tu theou. It's interesting. I remember years ago in seminary, one of my professors said, you know, the demons knew who Jesus was, even though a lot of people do not. They knew he was the judge. In one other account, it says, have you come to destroy us before the time? He said it was unfortunate that they know more about that often than people who deny the reality of the final judgment. I think that was the point that he was making. And so, following this question, Jesus rebukes the unclean spirit. Notice in the next phrase, kai epitemisen auto ha Jesus legon. Phimothete kai exelte ex autou. And he rebuked him, Jesus rebuked him, saying, be muzzled and come out of him. Here we have epitemesen from epitemao. He rebuked him. The aorist indicative active third person singular from epitemao. He rebuked him. Jesus rebuked him, saying, another participle in legon, present active participle, nominative masculine singular. Phimothete from phimao, meaning like be muzzled. Here we have the aorist passive imperative, second person, uh, second masculine singular, be muzzled and come out of him. Exelte from exergamai, it's your aorist imperative, a second masculine singular from exergamai. So be muzzled and come out of him. And notice immediately the Lord's authority over the demons is set forth. It reads in verse 26, Kai sparaksanautan tan numata akathartan kai phonesan phone megale exalthen ex autou. And when when it convulsed him, that is the unclean spirit, and cried out with a great voice or a loud voice, he came out of him with a loud cry. Notice sparaksan is your aorist participle, nominative masculine singular from sparasso, to convulse. So when he convulsed him, that is the unclean spirit, and when he cried with a great voice, cried out, phoneson is another aorist participle, nominative masculine singular from phoneo. So when he cried out with a great voice, he came out of him. Exhaled then, again, is your aorist indicative active third person singular from exergamai. So we see the authority of Jesus and the demon convulsing the man and coming out of him with a great voice. Then everybody is amazed. Notice then 27. Kai etam bethesan chapantes hosta suzetain pras autus legantas te estin tuta didake kaine kat exousion kai tois pneumasin or pneumasi tois akatartois epitase kai hupakuusin alto. In other words, and they were amazed. They were all amazed, so that they discussed with one another, saying, or they sought and discussed with one another, saying, what is this? A new teaching according to authority? And that even, or can we say and, or even, he is commanding the unclean spirits, and they are obeying him. Notice, and they were amazed. Et thaumbethesan is from thaumbeo. It is the aorist indicative passive, third person plural from thaumbeo. They were all amazed. So that to inquire, here we have a resultative clause with hosta and the infinitive, the present infinitive active in su, say, tain, to like to question or to seek. Uh, they were questioning and seeking with one another, saying, legantes is from lego, the present participle accusative plural from legon. They were saying, what is this? A new teaching according to authority? Even the unclean spirits he is commanding, and they are obeying him. Notice epitase is from epitasso. It's the present indicative active third person singular, and they are obeying him. Hupakuusin is from hupakuo. Uh, it is another present indicative active third person plural, from apakuo. So they're amazed that all he has to do is speak, and the unclean spirit obeys him. What authority is this? And he's just commanding them, and they're obeying him. This shows Jesus' authority over the demonic realm. And that's a wonderful thing to know, that he is the King of Kings, and greater is he who is within you, if you know Christ, than he who is within the world. That is Satan. So this is showing, Mark wants to show his authority over the demons, over unclean spirits. And then finally in verse 28, Kaexeothen he aka eautu iothus pantaku es halenten perikoran tes Galileas. And his fame, or the hearing about him, his fame went out immediately everywhere into all the region of Galilee. Here we have that immediate action again in Mark, the fame going out. And exelthen is your aorist indicative active third person singular from exergamai. So his fame went out, and immediately everywhere it went out into all the region of Galilee. So this is a great paragraph showing the authority of Jesus over unclean spirits. And that gives us the authority to know that if we know Christ, that he who indwells us, meaning the Holy Spirit, is greater than the demonic realm. And I don't believe a believer can be indwelt by the Spirit, by a demonic spirit, indwelt by the Holy Spirit, but not by a demonic spirit. I believe demonic spirits can afflict and attack, but I am of the deep conviction that they're not going to come into the same house with the Holy Spirit. It is interesting that the two are not going to be able to exist together, because the stronger one would cast out any type of demonic possession. And I see that in Matthew chapter 12, for example. So I think this is a great text showing the authority of Jesus over the demonic realm. So he has authority to call people to be apostles, and then he has authority over the demonic realm. And so this is Mark's development of the servant. And next he'll go to the healing of many people and some of the wonderful miracles that he does. So I'm going to stop there. I hope this is helpful. I would hope that somebody might open their Greek New Testament and follow me along. Often Greek and Hebrew are set aside after seminary, but my prayer is that pastors and others will get back to their languages and continue working through it. So I'm hoping this grammatical analysis can be a help. Uh, and not only just pastors, but anyone. If you learn the alphabet and then can start reading inductively the Greek New Testament as we try to work through the grammar.